Welcome to Lesson 5, the Library Part 2. We'll dig even further into the library, this time working with human and fantasy figures. We'll get comfortable loading clothing, hair, and material presets to customize our characters. Then we'll bring life to our figures by adding poses and expressions. Next, we'll learn to parent handheld props so our character can carry an object. Finally, we'll load scenery props and build a beautiful mythological scene simply by using library presets. Alright, let's have some fun! Okay, here we are right where we left off, and I want to continue focusing on the library. So let's clear out this scene we created in the last video. To make way for something new, I'm going to click Edgar, I'm going to hit delete or backspace, and make sure that delete attached figures is checked. That way all the attached clothing is deleted along with Edgar, all in a single action. There we go. Click Mini and do the same thing. Now no worries, because our scene is saved here in our Poser Projects library under our Scenes category. That we did this in the last video, so we're safe. We can always reload it later. Let's come over to Figures and unload the content here for Poser 11. Those toon figures were great, but let's work with some more realistic humans. All of those types of figures can be found under People. And so here we have a vault of all the figures released for Poser going back several years, and there's a lot in here. Some of them are very old and their quality is outdated, but they still have that classic look that you may want from time to time. And then there's a lot of brand new stuff in here as well. So let's explore Allison. She came out a few years ago, and we can see she's a Caucasian, and she even has some ethnic variations as well. And you can explore all those throughout the folder. Now let's go down to James. He came out in Poser 6, but he was such a great character that his quality is still pretty good by today's standards. And then we've got a different type of character, Kate 2. This was an adolescent released for Poser 7. Not so realistic, but has a good look to her still. And then we've got newer characters like Rex, an outstanding male character. This is a nude version that you can custom clothe. And then the casual version. All your casual versions are going to be pre-clothed and pre-fitted with hair so that you have several characters that you can just quickly populate your scenes, and you don't even have to fuss with hair or clothing. You can just throw these characters ready to go. So a lot to explore here. Make sure you dig through it yourself. Let's explore the brand new characters for Poser 11. Paul is the brand new male. We'll come back to him later. And then we've got Pauline, the brand new female. Here's her casual, pre-clothed, and her nude version. Now, a disclaimer to sensitive viewers, we're going to load a nude female figure, so be aware of that. I will double click to load her. Now, these realistic human figures can take a few seconds longer to load because they have larger textures, more realistic, and they also have higher polygon counts, so it's more data to load. Now, also please understand that we are not focusing on nudity in any way. However, Poser provides us these highly accurate human models if we want to do medical illustrations or any artistic expression. We've got the full accuracy and detail of the human form. So let's move on and put some clothes on this outstanding Pauline figure. We'll go to Props, unfold our Poser 11 folder. Let's come down to Clothing. Jump down to Pauline's folder. Now there's a lot here. I'm just going to double click on the Business Commissole. All right. Now, when you double click on items, it loads it, but it doesn't auto fit it to the character. And so if we try to move Pauline's figure, you'll notice that the shirt does not follow. So when you need to manually conform, just select the shirt, go up to Figure, Conform to, and select your figure from the drop-down menu. Hit OK, and it snaps to fit. Now we can just click and drag, and everything stretches and fits perfectly. Okay, great. There's another quicker way to fit clothing. We can go to, I'm going to select the sweatpants, and then Command or Control select tennis shoes. You can keep Command Control selecting, or even do a sweep through selection holding Shift, and you can select as many items as you want. With these two selected, let's click and drag and drop them right on the figure. And when you drop in multiple items like that, and you click and drag drop right on the figure, it not only loads the items, but it auto-conforms them for you. So now if we grab, say, the translate tool and bring down the hips, you can see the sweats are attached and bend. The shoes stay with the feet. Everything's good to go. So let's move on to the hair category. Unfold our poser 11. Go to people. That's right, Pauline. And let's go to conforming hair. I'm going to load this Amy style. I'll click and drag and drop it, auto-conform it, all at the same time by dropping it on the head. Okay, now I'm going to use my shortcut for the face camera and see what's going on with this hair. Now, when you come from the library, you need to click once in your document window for your shortcuts to start working because it still thought we were in the library. So now we can do Command or Control plus. There we go. And it's just polygons. There's no materials on this hair. Usually your items will have some sort of material. Let's go explore our material presets. Poser 11. We'll come down to people. And it looks like Pauline hair has its own folder. We'll go into the Amy style and look at this. Tons of material presets here. I'll click and drag this first one. I'll drop it right on her hair. And it's going to load everything. Textures, look at that. The transparency comes through. Beautiful color. And we can just play around here and try out all different types of presets. And there we go. A nice difference of a color there. I like that a lot. And so let's go ahead and get back in here. I'm going to close out Pauline hair and go right above it to Pauline. And we got lots of different eye color options in here. So I'm going to click and drag eyes green right on her face. And we can see the change happen right there. Nice green eyes contrasting with that red hair. So I'm going to click once in the scene, Command or Control M for main camera. And let's see if we got presets for the clothing. So let's close out the Pauline folder. I'll close out people and we'll come up to clothing. And we'll go down to Pauline clothing, business suit, and we got some stuff here for the camisole. I'll click and drag this red preset and drop it right on that garment, and there it is. So you get the idea here. We can just experiment with several different combinations until we get something we like. And Poser makes it so easy by providing presets. So you really want to make sure you explore your presets. If you have hair, clothing, or a figure loaded, always look for what material presets are available because every piece of content will be unique and different. Okay, let's move on back to props. And I want to load this quick suit back in the Pauline folder. But we first have to delete this other clothing. And so remember, if you have a hard time selecting exactly what you want because we got overlapping clothing and figures, remember we can right click, go to select, and we can grab the figure or the clothing. I'll grab the clothing, I'll hit delete, I'll say OK. And I'm going to do the same thing to the sweats, just delete and say OK. And we got tennis shoes on here, so let's go ahead and select those and delete OK. Now I'm going to click and drag this quick suit, land it right on her, and it'll auto-conform it and load it all with just one click and drag. There we go. She's looking great. We got a baby blue ninja suit, or perhaps she's a futuristic yoga instructor from another time and place. I don't know, but I like it. So let's continue on and go back to our props library. I'm going to close out clothing, come all the way down to weapons, open up the swords folder, and let's just load this Persian sword. I'm going to double click it. And remember, when you bring items in, they're centered perfectly in the scene. And so what we had happen here, at first we don't know if it loaded, but as we can see by hovering, we see the selection keep lighting up. When we scroll over it, the sword is in the middle of her body. We can really see this if we change our document display style to the second outline option. Then we have X-ray vision and we can see through everything in the scene in this nice wireframe outline mode. Okay, so what we can do now is I'm going to hit the Y for the clean select tool, and I'm going to select the sword. And then we can either you do T for translate or M for manipulator. Either way, I can drag it with the translate or grab the manipulator tool and rotate my camera so these horizontal arrows show up a bit better and just drag it over. Now I'm going to go back and turn on texture shaded mode in my display styles, and I'm going to snap into my right hand camera, Command or Control left bracket, And let's start positioning this sword a little bit better. All right, just a little bit of rotation there. And drop it down with the translate. Looks like we need to move it over a touch. And slide her in like so. Okay, I think that's pretty great. We'll deal with the hand pose a little bit later. Let's go back to the main camera, Command or Control M. Now we got one problem. I'm going to hit R for rotate and pull the arm down. The sword doesn't stay stuck to the hand. So remember parenting? Well, we can parent the sword to the hand so that it does whatever the hand does and will follow. So Y for select, clean select the Persian sword. Let's come to properties, and there's a bit of a simpler way to parent props. We can go to properties, and we got the set parent button right here. Click that. We get a pop-up of the scene elements. I'll just extend the view. I can see Pauline down below, and I can just navigate down till I come across the right side of the body. There's a lot of body parts, a lot of controls, and I got right hand right here. Now, I don't want to check inherit bends of parent because it's not a sword made of rubber. I don't want it to bend when the hand bends. So leave that unchecked, hit OK. And now if we rotate that arm, awesome, she's ready for battle. Okay, let's move on, and now let's get a pose going for her. I'm going to select the pose category, come down to Poser 11 content, and let's come down to people and see if Pauline has special poses made just for her. Remember, explore your content depending on what you're working with. Well, I'm going to be honest, there is not a lot here. There's only a handful of poses. Now, I don't have Pauline currently selected, so I'll just click and drag and drop it right on her hand, and it works just as good. Okay, and so it's a beautiful, elegant pose, but it's not a battle pose. I want a nice action battle here. So guess what? We can just close out the people folder. The truth is, no matter what figure you have hundreds of poses. After all, it's called Poser. And so there are lots of ways to pose your character out. You want to come down to universal poses. Let's go inside there, and you've got several categories. There are literally hundreds of poses buried inside these folders in different types of situations, from fighting and action to standing still, conversational poses, business poses. There's even animations. So let's jump into action poses. And you can use these on any character in Poser, any character. That's what's so great about it. So always look for character-specific poses, and then also look at universal poses. So I'm going to come into fighting, and look, we got this nice sword fight pose, a few of them down here. So I'm going to go ahead and double-click it since I do have her selected currently. And Poser will interpret the universal pose and try its best to make it fit towards any character you have loaded. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes you need to modify it and clean it up. But you know what? Poser came through, and look at that. That is a beautiful pose that would have took a lot of time to do by hand. I love it. Okay, we just have one issue here. We got to poke through right here. See the skin poking through? And so this is going to happen when you do extreme poses. It's just a part of 3D life. So there's a few solutions. We learned one solution with the skirt in the last video. This one's even easier. Because we don't need to see any part of the thigh whatsoever, I can just go ahead, select it, come up to the properties, uncheck visible, and it disappears. There's no reason to even have those inner body parts visible with a piece of clothing like this. So there you have it, nice quick fix. Now let's go ahead and jump into the face camera, Command or Control plus, and she's really looking like that futuristic, calm yoga instructor instead of a medieval mythical dragon slayer with a sword. So let's go ahead and let's get her head selected, and really any part of her body is all we need selected. And let's go to expressions and see what's up with this category. We can go to the Pauline folder and see if there's special stuff for her. Oh, there sure is. There's quite a lot. I can just double click on Furious, and let's make her furious. There we go. Now she's really angry like we want her to be. Okay, she's ready for battle, but guess what? I want her even more furious. So with her head selected, we're going to come up to parameters, and there's a lot of controls here, but let's go ahead and just come down to expression. And there's some special parameters here. I'm just going to bump up the angry, browse angry slider there. There we go. I like that. And we can even play with browse up and see if it reverses a little bit. Now, I'm just going to stick with browse angry. Now, another thing that we can do is I want you to click on the scene and then hit T for translate. And if you just hover your mouse throughout her face, you'll see all these little tiny chip pieces pop up. This is a brand new feature for Poser 11 characters. We're going to explore this in a later video, but for right now, just find the chin chip. And watch this. You can click and drag and interactively pose out the face with different expressions like so. So I want this jaw offset like she's screaming freedom or something like that. Okay, now we're looking like she's nice and revved up for war. Okay, so now I'm going to Command or Control M back to the main camera. And I'm also going to restore my camera, Command or Control Shift H. And then I'm going to select her and then grab the body group. And I'm going to Y rotate her a bit. And then I'm going to X translate her to the right using all the parameter dials. There we go. And now I'll bring my camera in. I want her to the right of my restored camera setup. Okay, great. We're looking pretty good. I think I'm going to offset that pose a bit and bring that arm up. Okay, I'm also going to play with her neck a little bit. I'm going to rotate it up, and I'm also going to give it a bit of twist. Hit the W for twist. There we go. And I'll rotate it up a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, now she's got a sword, she's ready for battle, but what is she fighting? Well, let's bring in something for her to slay. I want to get into a mythical, magical, Lord of the Rings kind of Hobbit experience. So I'm going to go up to animals under the figures. And there's this dragon. Looks like it's spelt Dragon. I'm going to double click Dragon and bring this beast into the scene. Now this is a big one, I got to warn you. He's gigantic. See that? He's as big as a T-Rex. Okay, let's go ahead and just back up a little bit here. Look at that. So let's do this. Let's not mess around. Let's just go to the body group. And right away, the top scale, bump him down to 25%. And he's about half as intimidating. Now he's just a wee little forest goblin. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to translate him over and maybe even translate him up with the Y. There we go. Let's just see what's going on with this glorious looking beast. With the body group selected, we got this cool flap wings parameter dial. Look at that. He is ready for battle and flight. There's a lot of awesome controls with him. You should explore him thoroughly. We're not going to do that here. We're just going to set up a nice library-based scene. And so let's get a pose going for him. And let's go to the poses and see if there's custom poses for our dragon. And we'll go into animals. We'll come down to dragon. And I'm going to select the second hover. And we can just double click since we got him selected. And there we go. I think we can work with this. And so let's go ahead and get his body group again. And I'm going to Y rotate him and X translate him over to the left. Okay, great. And let's just get our camera a little bit more centered on the two. Okay, awesome. So let's do this. I want to really get into this mythical fantasy scene here, sort of Hobbitish, Lord of the Rings-ish. I went online, did an image search for forest, mossy forest, that type of thing, and I saved it to my desktop. You can do the same. And go to File, Import. We've done this before. Import background picture. And I'm going to go to the forest image I have saved. I'll hit Enter. Pops right up. We're going to pull off this Hollywood trick again. Remember that? And so we're looking pretty good here. We're going to make the lights match the scene. Right now it does not look like they're actually there. So let's do a little bit more posing first, and then we'll come to the lights. So let's just get that Y rotate just perfect. And then I think she's great. She's ready. And maybe I'll just twist the head back there we go. And I think I'm going to offset that head to make it sort of leaning a bit. All right. And then I'm going to grab the dragon, get his body group, And let's bring down the Y translate. Let's see where it's hitting that sword, if at all. I'm going to hit the Z translate and bring him in. Slide over the X. There we go. I want to see him intersect with the sword and then back out the Z translate. So he's just about to cut into the sword. There we go. Okay, let's do this. Let's start rotating, just whatever you want. Rotating different neck parts. You can also twist them. And I want to rotate and twist the neck and head until we get something kind of interesting. It really looks like he's bracing for a sword. Now with the head selected, let's go ahead and explore his parameters. And if the very top one that seems to be open is eye morphs, I'm going to reverse the blink by clicking and dragging to the left, which will make the eyes open up. And then I'm going to come down to mouth morphs, and I'm going to back up the mouth closed, click and drag to the left, and bump up the snarl. There we go. Now he's really looking like he's about to get attacked. Okay, and so what we can do is select him, his body group actually, and I'm going to bump down the Y translate and maybe have more of it coming to his neck. There we go. And I think that we can be pretty good with that. We're looking pretty awesome. Maybe we come down a bit more and X translate him out just a tad. Okay, great. And if we want, we can even rotate her wrist a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Okay, let's do one more thing. I'm going to grab his wing behind here. Maybe Y for select so we don't mess anything up. And there we go. Select that wing part. And then I'm going to hit M for manipulator. And I'm just going to start playing with the bands. What I want to do is bring the wing down so it's not obscuring so much of our background. There we go. Get a nice artistic composition. And let's go ahead and select the other side. And I'm just going to collapse that down a bit as well. And maybe bring it back. There we go. Okay, great. Our composition is looking pretty good. Maybe rotate this tail up a bit so it's not hiding there. And we can still play with our camera, maybe raise them up. Okay, I like that a lot. So let's do one more thing, and let's get onto the lights. Now I'm going to come over to the lights control palette, and let's just select this front right light, which looks like light 4. You can also just select your lights like anything else up here, okay? But you can just click on them from here. Now, with that light selected, you see this trash can icon here, right here? Delete light, the tooltip tells us. Well, delete that light. Hit OK. And the one right above it, which is light 3, I want you to delete that too. And then this one that's left bright, this is our default lighting, by the way, left over from the Andy scene that we carried over to the office muffin race scene that we carried over here. So it's time to change it up. So with light 2 selected, come to the properties up here, and we're going to change it from area light to infinite. And there we go. And then I want you to make sure shadows are on, ray trace is selected for shadows, and change the blur radius to 2. I will explain what all this stuff is in a later lights video, so just hang with me for now. Come back to parameters. We're just going to have fun here. Bump the 3000 intensity down to 200. Whoops. There we go, 200. And finally, let's do this. I want you to come to the color, and we're going to do the same trick we did with the Jedi mission. We're going to color pick a nice green out of our background. And then once we've got that, we're going to click it again so that we can use the sliders here as a light to dark value and then bump up to a brighter version of that green. Maybe something like that. There we go, a nice subtle green, because natural sunlight will pick up the greens of the forest and sort of illuminate to a green. Now we're going to take this other light left up here, this dark one, and I'm going to pull it down maybe to about right there. And then let's explore its properties up here and just turn shadows off. And let's see, let's bump it down to 20%. This is just going to be a soft bounce light. And I'll explain what that is in the lights video later. And then color pick the same thing, grab its light color, and then just sample our original light over here with that green. The work's already done. It's still dark because it only has a 20% intensity. So let's create one more light right here with this top sunburst icon. And we'll bring that one. Let's bring it behind. What I want to do, let me call your attention to this rim lighting going on here. That's the effect I'm going for. You see that? That's exactly what I want. And you can see if you drag behind the sphere, up and down, you can control how much of that you're going to get. So again, let's sample that color and copy from that same first green that we already selected. And with that light that we just created, we can leave it at 100 intensity, come up to properties and turn shadows off there. Look at how much more realistic the lighting looks just with 2 minutes of lighting. So we're looking awesome. And let's just do this. Let's bring in some foreground 3D elements. So I'm going to go to props. We want scenery props basically. And let's close out weapons, come up to naturals, down to water's edge, and I'm going to load this cattails reeds. And so here we go right here. We could slide it forward. I'm just going to enter in a value to do this quickly and hit 10 on the Z translate. And then we can X translate it over, drop it down with the Y translate using the parameters. And look at that. We got some nice actual 3D foreground elements. Let's bring in one more over here. Same exact item. Again, I'll pop the Z translate and enter 10. And then just slide it over with the X and bring it down with the Y. There we go. And below it we have cattails. Let's go ahead and bring in a couple of those. And again, I'm going to go 10 on the Z translate to make this quick. And then we can just X translate it over, drop it down with the Y very quickly. Let's bring in one more of the cattails. One more time, hit 10 on the Z. Swing it over with the X translate slider and down with the Y. Okay, great. We're looking really awesome here. And so I think I'm going to just move that reeds over just a tad to reveal the foot there. And let's go up to, let's close out water's edge and go into forest. And down here we have mushroom 1. Let's double click and bring that guy in here. Okay, great. I'm going to bump up the scale to something like 150. And let's build a magical mystery, mythical kind of thing here. Let's bump up the Z translate to something like 6. Whoops, that's a little too much, so just back it down and reverse it. There we go. Bring up the Y translate. And then slide it over with the X translate. Beautiful. Y rotate just a tad. And I'm going to enter in 10 for the X rotate, just to offset so we can see the top of it a bit. There, that's beautiful. A little bit more Y, drop it down so that we don't see the bottom. It's more like a secondary subtle element there. And beautiful. Guess what? We're ready to render this beautiful creation here. And so look, we feel like we're a hobbit looking, peering and peeking through the bushes, watching them battle here, right? And so let's go up to render. Actually, let's do one thing first. Let's go back to the library to our scenes category. Now, we are still working off this Muffin Race 1 file. We can see it up here. We're still on that file. If we accidentally save this file, we would end up saving over that and losing it. So let's go ahead and save out this under a different name. Let's create a different project subfolder. We'll come down here to folder and let's enter Dragon Slayer. Okay. And with that folder selected, hit the plus symbol down below and enter in any name you want. Dragon Slayer 1. How about that? And now we've got our scene saved. Now if you want, of course you can, there it is there. So we got both files saved for our last two projects. Of course you could save your poses from here if you want by selecting the characters. We already learned that. Let's go up to render. Come down to render settings. Last time we used the Superfly engine by default. I'm going to explain rendering in detail later. For now, just come over to Firefly and let's use a different render engine. So just follow along and let's have some fun. Uncheck subsurface scattering and make sure indirect lighting is also not checked. Come down here and hit render now. And here we go. It's calculating with our progress bar. I love this part. It's like opening a Christmas present. I can't wait to see it. And you know, the more you put in a scene, the longer it can take to render. And let's see here. Here it comes. I'm excited. I don't know about you. our nice Lord of the Rings hobbit / futuristic yoga instructor. There we go. Look at the beautiful lighting and shadow on that dragon. And she is starting to come along. All right. And we got that nice rim lighting going on right here that I wanted. And it's got tinges of green, very subtle. Look at the beautiful reflections on the sword of the dragon's neck. I love it. And we got our beautiful background blending with our mid-ground characters and our foreground actual 3D props. Now that's pretty awesome for just banging something out in 30 minutes. I love it. And I think I'm going to email Peter Jackson for my idea for the next Hobbit or Lord of the Rings movie. What do you say? Well, maybe I'm kidding myself. Anyway, all right, folks, there's your library. Explore it thoroughly. There's a lot of power here. Use it to your advantage. And I hope you had a lot of fun. We're going to keep the learning going. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.